All right. So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our amazing webinar that we have. I'm Kobe Smith, and I'm the coordinator for inclusive growth here at the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. And I'm excited to kick off the Manufacturing Week with one of our valued members and strategic partners, MakeHaven. Huge thank you and shout out to JR Logan, the executive director at MakeHaven, for agreeing to do an amazing discussion and panel and overview on the inventor's roadmap, navigating physical product development for small business owners and innovators. And I'm really excited to learn about what MakeHaven has to offer, hear from the amazing guests and panelists that we have, and learn how we can make manufacturing more accessible and equitable through our chamber and our region. So without further ado, I will introduce JR Logan, the Executive Director of MakeHaven, to get the ball rolling. Thanks, JR.
Great. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share what we and our inventors are doing. I'm going to do a brief introductory presentation before we get into the discussion. And my aim is just to give a bird's eye view of what's going on with the pathway that's typical, although there may not always be the same pathway. Things are variant depending on what type of product and what you're doing. We're not going to go in depth, but I know this is being recorded, and I'm happy to share the slides as well. I'm also wanting just to say that what we're talking about here is, because it's Manufacturing Week, we're talking about manufacturing and invention, not building a craft product like something you might sew as like a one-off to or a few off to sell at a craft fair, and not selling services. So this is really about the journey for somebody who has invented something and wants to manufacture it. And this is also what we're talking about is the product development column here. This is something that Kobe and I and many others are working on, working between organizations to make sure that we are providing services. And you might be in a stage where you have figured out a bunch of your concepts, and you might have figured out some of the funding or other things, but you may not have completely figured out your product. So this is just to acknowledge that there is a developing and growing organization of an ecosystem of organizations really working to support you and make sure that we are addressing all of these aspects. Although right now we're just talking about this, the typical journey within developing of the product, not all of the business stuff that wraps around it. And why am I talking about this? Because we're MakeHaven, we're a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to equip people with the tools to design, invent, and create. And we support people doing prototypes or art in all sorts of materials. And I'm going to give you a lightning tour of the facility so you know what's there. We're a resource that helps with that prototyping, getting people up to the point where they might develop a product. So talking about the steps, typically you are starting with designing and prototyping. You are visualizing. You might work with something like cardboard. You are going to be making different types of prototypes. A prototype that might look like the design, how it's going to, you imagine it, something that is more functional. You're going to try and test that with users, even though it might look very rough. You're going to do all sorts of checks and really build that feedback loop. As you build that feedback loop, you might be using certain tools. So people often think about confidentiality. So an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, is something that might make it more comfortable to share that early idea with some people that can provide advice and help you out. Although I will say that most ideas die because people just didn't give them a try. So it's also important not to get too caught up in all of the copyrights and patents and stuff before you've actually, built a little model and tested your idea. Early protection that many people are able to do that has a lower barrier to entry would be a provisional patent. So this is something that you can do in order to give yourself a 1-year window to show people your idea with some protection before you go through the full patenting process. And so a lot of inventors will go through that early prototyping phase where they maybe have NDAs or maybe they're just keeping it private. They might then, once they feel they have something strong that they can define, they'll have a provisional patent, and that sets them up well to start shopping that idea around and go for a full patent. And so then you're going to have an idea, and this can be commingled with that first step. But not only does an idea need to work, but it needs to work for manufacturing. So a lot of times you'll get somebody who has 3D printed something, and that is a great product from a 3D printed standpoint, but it may be something that to make it economically feasible, they want to go to a much higher volume. You might be able to continue to 3D print at lower volume, but now you're going to think about what you need to do. And there's lots of types of manufacturing techniques that will work well for high volume. So for example, there's injection molding, where you actually take liquid plastic and you inject it into a cavity. There's CNC, which stands for computer numeric control, where you're milling something, you're cutting it out as by computer design that's repeatable. You're doing it over and over. You can stamp something where a big press is coming down and forming a piece of metal, or die cutting, cutting it out. So there's lots of different types of things, and that becomes intimately involved with how you adapt your design. So not only do you have to have a product that is a good idea, a product that your customers respond to, you have to have a product that is appropriate to the type of manufacturer which your customers are willing to be able to pay for, and the amount of volume you're going to be able to do. This means that you're probably going to be thinking about different levels of funding. So often people have friends and family will be donating. They'll be using their own capital. Then they'll be moving up to getting like early seed investors. This is where this ecosystem can help you introduce to people. This is where you show up to networking events. You start understanding what's going on. Very early on, you may also be doing pitch competitions, which help build your network, but also may get some grant funding in the door or some pitch competition winning, which doesn't dilute your equity and helps you to really build to that point where manufacturers are going to take you more seriously. This is also where you might be transitioning from MakeHaven, where you're building your prototype, into working with partners like Forge, who are more specialized in making that manufacturer connection and curating that. So then you have your item, you know how you're producing it, you've iterated your design, you've tested it. You're really now going to be working with a partner like Forge to go through the agreement and prototype to a production process at your manufacturing. So there's going to be agreements for you to find the scope. This was where your intellectual property is really important, because you're really sharing and moving forward your idea, and you've now invested investor money in it, so you want those protections. You're finalizing your prototype. They're going to have one that they've actually manufactured, and you're going to want to evaluate it and make sure it all works and the process worked to get the product you want, and you get the quality and the quality assurance you want. And you're going to want to really have nailed down how you're working with your manufacturer. Are you contracting them? Are you going to own all the tools and molds and things that are actually doing the production? Are you hiring them? Are you selling it off to somebody, licensing it and getting a royalty? Do you have all the things properly in place so that you're exclusively using like one manufacturer? Does the deal allow you to go and use your tools at other manufacturers? These are all important things to define as you go into that production once you're moving from producing it yourself. So just to zoom out, again, this is super high level. This gives you that map just drawn out of how you're moving through the different stages, what your work is, what sort of tools you're using in blue, like NDAs, manufacturing agreements, and so on, patents, typically later on, and then the milestones of where you get to. And when you've done this, you're not really done, because once you're manufacturing, you're still going to be needing to work ready to manufacture on your sales growth. And you might even do this earlier with a Kickstarter or something like that. But you are really launching your product. You need to figure out your packaging. You need to figure out your e-commerce. You need to move it forward. And so this is why it's a whole ecosystem of people or organizations and people and network that are often needed to help that inventor move forward. So some final just advice is to test early, fail early, adapt quickly. Don't get too attached to that first napkin sketch. Things often change. Understand the manufacturing process. Don't build yourself into a dead end where you build something that cannot be manufactured, because that is a very important interrelationship between the idea and the manufacturing. And really work on your pitch. Be able to communicate, because it's going to be about building a team and enlisting others to make your thing successful. Nobody does it on their own. So that is my very quick idea of the path. I'm going to stop sharing here so that it allows me to take over. And I'm just going to show you what MakeHaven looks like. So to start, we are in the bio lab. So we're all about having all sorts of technologies available. I'm going to turn this camera around. I'm going to turn the camera around. Okay, there it goes. Here we have kind of what you'd find in a high school science lab, but some of our innovators actually either build equipment for bio or work with something related to bio. So we want to have the ability to educate, demystify, and provide tools for that. We have screen printing. This is more on our art side, although textiles and printmaking are often something where people can build a brand or a product. We have a resin printer. So this prints with resin, which I'm going to show you later can be a part of the early injection molding. So this can move you towards not only designing the part, but designing the tool that ultimately would be moving you towards a larger scale manufacturer, although that would be for small batches. 3D printers. And then you get into our textiles area. And there's lots of textile tools. Laser cutters are often used in prototyping. For example, here is a little model that was cut on the laser and then scaled up using the CNC machine into a full-scale desk. And since that was done CNC, it was repeatable. We have a ceramics area, and then more related to prototyping would be this area, which is casting and mold making. Often a step where you're making a silicone mold, maybe off of a 3D print, or even off a laser cutter layered up. And then you're going to be able to make like reproductions in all kinds of different materials. And to do that, you often do it under pressure or with vacuum. And this is like a rotary molder, which is another way to do it. It allows you to make hollow molds. I talked about stamping things out. This is a press where you would, for example, make a mold. In this case, there's little knives down there, and it would stamp out a piece of paper like this that becomes an envelope. So basically, you put the tool inside this, it would clamp down and stamp things out. You can do multiple types of material. Back here, we have our wood shop. So lots of woodworking tools, great for making all sorts of things, including prototypes. Often people need to build framing and things to test. We have one CNC here, computer numeric controlled milling machine. And then we have a larger one here. So this tool, you would program it using CAD. You would draw a vector. You basically define all of the areas that you would trace out. And then that tool is going to follow the path. It's going to take the appropriate tool. It's going to pick it up. There's a vacuum underneath that holds it down. You put a piece of plywood on here, and it's going to cut it out. And if you do your design well, you can pop it out, having used the whole piece of plywood or multiple pieces, and then assemble it. Think IKEA, where you have standard pieces that fit together. And there's lots of products that are made this way and actually go into production and people get very good about having efficiency in the system. Typically, people here are not as worried about efficiency. They're worried about discovery and figuring out what works. And then as you go into manufacturing, your prototype, you're really thinking about how you maximize use of the material and maximize the time on the machine so that you're efficient. And then I'm going to take us into our machine shop before we do our panel. So here we have a machine shop, and it is got lots of tools, including a water jet cutter, which is an amazing tool for being able to take sheets of any material and to be able to cut it out, design by CAD. And so this is one that I wanted to show you. So this is a prototype injection molder, but I wanted to get the concept across. This is a mini one. So you would fill this with plastic pellets, you'd melt it, and then you can inject it out the bottom. Now this is for very small pieces, like something like this. Then you get a little bigger. This is still not for manufacturing, but this is for prototyping. And it's the same thing. You have a hopper that you fill with plastic. You have a caged area where you would put a mold, and then it would press it, heat it, melt it, and press it. And I had mentioned that you could use a resin print to prototype things. So molds are very expensive to produce. They're meant for longer runs. This is something some of our makers were playing with, which is a resin printed injection mold. They printed it out on that 3D printer to make little spoons. It was just a fun project. You can see they went through different iterations, cracked some of them, and then you would encase it in a metal canister. And so another example would be this little cup that was made, and it was made using this lathe-based machined cavity. And you could see that it would be injected in here, and out pops your cup with the little MakeHaven robot engraved on it. I don't know if you can see that. But that gives you an idea of some of the tools that are used for developing prototypes and that are used as you move towards manufacture. So with that, I'm going to go back to, I'm going to leave the lightning tour, and we'll bring our panel in, who are people who have actually gone through the process of developing products. Panel, do you want to introduce yourselves one by one? What we're going to do is we're going to have each person just do a little 2-minute overview of their what they do and their product, and then we'll have open questions and answers so that you guys can ask any of us about this process and how it goes. So maybe we will start with Erick, then we're going to go to Nick, and then Trinell. So Erick, do you want to bring us into it?
Thank you for the
We're not
kind
hearing.
introduction. My name is Erick Rios. I have a company called Big Bang. I've been having fun for 20 years. Since I left college, I've been helping inventors and companies bring real products to life. Over 600 products has hit the shelf, 107 patents, and a lot of fun. A lot of time at MakeHaven, testing out things and making sure that they work. Just to share, I put here products that are in, and we made their companies that are in Connecticut or startups. Cuisinart out of Stamford, Connecticut. We've done over 20 products for them. I go to somebody's home, I look at their kitchen. A lot of times there's something I've done there. I've made cookies at MakeHaven. I've made all kinds of different things. Whenever we start a project, first things we do is learn to use it. And we go through a bunch of recipes. Arrow is a startup out of Tennessee. They were really wanting to help parents manage phone use at home. So they created this charging station with a algorithm that helps people stay away from their phone. They've sold about 5,000 units as of last year, and still growing. They launched during the pandemic. PDBOS, another Connecticut company, they really switched or innovated their product in about 5 years ago when they went from just sending mail to being able to do packages, and we helped them with the machine you see there, change their lineup. At MakeHaven, we spend a lot of time making sure, measuring parts to make sure that they were going to come out the same way every single time. Response Systems out of Brantford, they just got acquired by a much larger company, so I think they're very happy when I talked to them about 3 months ago. They do therapy for elderly dogs and horses, competition horses. Um, I'm actually not sure that I ever went to MakeHaven with this one. Do you? I don't think so, Jar. Almond Cow was the pandemic product, and many people that actually came through MakeHaven saw me working on it, and it makes almond milk. I spent countless hours sitting there with a mask, kind of working on the ins and out. When we started, they launched with a Kickstarter, and last year sold 50,000 units. Uh, it was a lot of fun to help them make good almond milk, and my favorite right now is cashew coconut. So if you like vegan milks, making your own gives you a lot more better things for you to do with. And so, my job is to manage complexity, and I come in whenever you're ready to mass produce something and you don't know where to go. And I help walk that path and hopefully help you succeed in getting many, many units made. You're muted, JR.
Great, thanks, Eric. I guess I'll step in here. My name is Nick McGhee, and I have a small startup making boat parts. So I manufacture hardware for the marine environment. I'm a sailor myself and a mechanical engineer by education and experience. And I can show you some of my parts. Primarily, one of my biggest sellers is our mounts for Starlink antennas. So this is a Starlink antenna. It provides satellite internet coverage anywhere in the world. And a few years ago, I recognized the need for mounting these onto the boats. They, manufactured these with stationary setups in mind, and they kind of missed the ball on the marine industry. And so it kind of created an opening for me to step into the market. So I produce and fabricate all different types of brackets that mount the Starlink to common fixtures on boats. I started out at MakeHaven producing these. I used the CNC machines to mill certain components. I developed tools for casting using a lot of machines that JR showed you down there. I developed these products for different manufacturing methods and ultimately settled on 3D printing because it's one of the most responsive manufacturing methods, especially for the size of my market. And I'm able to produce components that are marine grade using these machines you can see behind me, as well as getting started on machines down at MakeHaven. And so if we want to talk about the strategy or the path to development, first started out recognizing a need and then developing a solution to that, and then bringing that solution to life, utilizing the tools here at MakeHaven. I'm actually here at MakeHaven in the incubator space. So not only has MakeHaven really provided access to the tools, but also a space to grow and build my business. Thank you. JR, you're muted.
Trinell, would you like to go?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's see. Hello? Hey, JR, can you hear me? Okay.
We can hear you. Yeah, we are not seeing.
Okay.
Please go ahead. Are you trying to share?
Yes. All right. Should come on.
we're seeing a red bird. Oh, there
Can you
go.
see it now?
Got it.
Perfect.
Yep, we got it.
All right. All right, great. Well, thank you for having for JR and MakeHaven. My name is Trinell Ball. I'm Connecticut's program director. This is just some visuals of some of the things we do. On the top left-hand corner, we're really into education and connection. We help startups manufacture. So, over here you can see an example of a panel, an educational panel for startups. At the bottom, we have a little factory tour going on to educate startups again. And to the right, we're giving away some money. It's a product development grant to help startups manufacture, especially during those early stages. So, what is our mission? At Forge, everything we do is designed to empower startups and innovative companies in manufacturing their physical products. We are a nonprofit. Your hard tech innovation is very important. Entrepreneurs do stuff in clean tech, transportation, defense, robotics, you name it. So, what is the challenge that hard tech innovators face? The hard tech innovation startups failure rates are high. Planning to scale to manufacture is a critical failure point, and low awareness of some of the possibilities and advantages of local manufacturing. So we're not anti-offshoring, but we're pro-inshoring, especially in the early stages when having close proximity to the supplier that you're working with to constantly have those discussions. So make sure you're on the right track is very important. So our solution, we democratize access to the manufacturing know-how and help spur relevant local partnerships. And we help innovators through preparation to manufacture. We try to get to know your specific needs. And then when you're ready, we curate the connections. Okay. These are some of our statistics. We work with over 1,000 startups, and we have a pretty good survival rate, over 80%, and 175 of them are in mature production. These are some of the areas that we work in. Robotics, energy generation, medical device, chemicals and advanced materials, you name it. If it's anything physical, that's tangible, it needs to be assembled or manufactured, we have the resources in our network to help you. A brief overview of some of our programming. So this is our two-pronged approach to helping innovators manufacture: education, as I mentioned, and community and connection. Emerging hard tech companies spend a lot of time and their capital on product development and making right decisions in design and manufacturing. Yet, innovators that have not manufactured or scaled production before often have significant gaps in their knowledge of the disciplines in manufacturing and blind spots around those gaps. And some of it goes to what JR, Erick, and the gentleman, I'm sorry, I just went off my screen, talked about, Daniel McGhee, I believe. And we educate innovators through our programming, such as manufacturing readiness workshops, showcases, and regional events, factory tours, and more. And then we connect the innovators to manufacturing resources within the ecosystem. And we have a program where we provide non-dilutive product development grants, and we'll be launching such a program very soon. So we encourage, if you're an entrepreneur, to apply. So we are here again to help you manufacture once you're ready. We're here to provide you with those connections and also the support that you require. I'll leave you with a success story about Flow. This is a de-icing company. Basically, when you have ice buildup on your rooftops, it causes a lot of infrastructure damage, and Flow provides these solutions. So we have been working with them for a while. To make a long story short, it was last week, as JR was talking about, building those allies and communities. They were at the Made in Connecticut forum, Manufacturing Innovation Forum, and they were able to pitch their idea, and they had significant traction and establishing relationships with these local leaders. So with that, I will hand it over to JR, and looking forward to supporting you in your manufacturing journey.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, for this quick introduction. We're going to be moving to the question and answer portion, and Kobe is going to be our moderator. what I'm going to ask is that folks use the Q&A capabilities of Zoom here. So there's like Q&A section that you can click. I'd also be very curious to know who people are and what brought them here. So if folks want to put that into the chat, you can introduce yourself, and that way we know why you're here, what motivated you to be here, if you're an inventor or looking to support inventors. If you do that in the chat and try and add things in the Q&A capability. So Kobe, I will turn it over to you to answer user questions or enter your own question if that helps to kick it off.
Okay, so we currently don't have any questions yet, but hearing everyone present, I have a few questions on my own, and I'm hoping we could get the ball rolling with this. So and it doesn't matter who wants to take on this question first, but from each of your perspectives, what do you believe or see is the biggest bottleneck that's preventing more inventors from scaling from prototype to production?
I'm happy to start that. A lot of time it's education. That's why webinars like these are very helpful. I mean, people think that they're going to have whatever they sketch on the napkin and that they can make money from it right away. I hear many times like, oh, I just want to make a patent and sell the IP. It's really not that easy. You have to do a lot of upfront work and you have to actually get it into customers' hands before somebody's going to pay you money for your ideas. So that's half the battle, and it starts with education. If you have some interest, you go. There's a lot, and Connecticut has done a lot of strides in the last few years of providing a lot of programming and a lot of startup resources for you to learn how to bring products to market.
Thank you. I was like, Nick, it sounds like you want to answer it. I could see it. The answer is brewing. I could see it.
No, I was just gonna bolster his comments. Yeah, I mean, there's a huge journey in learning when trying to bring a product to fruition, not only from the product development side, but also on the IP side. I find myself, I'm a mechanical engineer, but still writing a patent is a very challenging aspect. And so being able to find people in the industry, in the IP space to work with has definitely been helpful in my journey.
All right, Trinell?
I can add on. Yeah, so I think we have great resources in helping founders manufacture, right? To take it to prototype, then to design for manufacturing, and eventually scale. I mean, I always emphasize when founders are embarking on a journey to make sure to think about product discovery. Is there a market for this product, right? Who are the partners that you're going to partner with in the ecosystem to get you to that pilot, right? Are you holding these conversations? So make sure you prepare, and sometimes you often have to pivot. So keeping all this in mind and parallel to your manufacturing journey, especially in the hard tech product case, is important.
Yeah, I think that ability to pivot or that ability to recognize when you should pivot, like I said before, I started manufacturing, trying to produce components, CNC or casting aluminum. And I found that it was really hard to respond to the voice of the customer because there was a lot of hurdles in order to change a design. And so by shifting more to a 3D printed focus where I could rapidly iterate was definitely a stepping stone to building up a clientele that is allowing me to continue production and develop new parts.
And I would say something that I see as a barrier is perfectionism. That sometimes people want to keep redoing that prototype before getting it in other people's hands and getting the real feedback, and that to test it early is really important. The other thing that I see is people get very hung up on intellectual property when it's still a very napkin idea and really they haven't built something just to see that it will physically be useful. And so I'd say try and build something, even just for yourself, to get a little feedback from reality before you get too hung up on all of the administrative aspects.
Yeah, Well, and that's what's great about MakeHaven is you do have the equipment there to facilitate these early level prototypes. And also I've found that events like this or other pitch contests, or specifically in my case this week, we have the boat show coming up, and I'm trying to launch a new product, and that really puts a hard stop on the iteration and that search for perfection, and really gets it down to, hey, I've got to have product that I can have on display. So finding opportunities that give you a hard stop to take your design concept idea from the napkin to something deliverable is a good way to kind of spur that action, or parenthesize it, or put a period on it.
Okay. No, thank you. This is good. I like how you are like really explaining the process from your experiences, so it gives those I'm on the call a chance to understand like what really goes into, just that roadmap for others. So I'm gonna go to the Q&A. Okay, so we have three questions right now. So the first one is from Devin Thayer. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And they're asking, what's the outline of the roadmap? This seems to be a part of a roadmap series.
It's not really part of a series. This was a shorter version of a presentation that I had done, outlining just what I had presented at the beginning of that map of stages. I will say that it's informed also by work that's happening in the equitable entrepreneurship ecosystem group, which is a group being collected by the Community Foundation of Greater New Haven, of organizations that you see here, and others. And we are discussing how we can better fill that pipeline. So that's all part of a discussion of how we can be there to support entrepreneurship. At current, it is very scattershot. Like, you kind of have to navigate it yourself. You have to go, and we each informally refer to each other, and we're working on formalizing that. So it's probably, if there's something behind this, that's probably what you're detecting.
All right, right. So we have does anyone else want to answer before I go on?
No.
Okay. All right, so we have another question from anonymous attendee that says, how important is it to make sure you have a customer market fit before you develop your idea?
I'll take a first crack at it. I think it's a chicken or the egg problem. You have to do both. You have to do some basic checking by talking to your peers, talking to potential customers while you start incubating the idea. As JR mentioned earlier, it's easy to kill an idea when it's an idea. There's many ways to kill it. So if you don't progress on both sides at the same time, you're never going to get an idea off the ground. So don't forget while you're doing that, it's not just customer market fit, it's also the business model. Because a lot of times there's many ideas out there that people want, but the business model does not exist to support it. And so I'm an adrenaline junkie. I've been doing this all my life. A startup is like juggling balls. You're going to have like 5, 10 balls in the air. And the key is to learn which ones to grab when and to keep it moving. It's a lot of fun if you like to be challenged and from different perspectives. And it is about that balance of keeping all those balls in the air slowly. So, custom market fit, very important, business model, and actual product development, all as important, and you should do them in parallel.
Yeah, it definitely. I feel the juggling analogy is very accurate. There's a lot of balls an entrepreneur has in the air, and one thing, there's all these feedback loops. So you might have to develop your product to show it to somebody, and then they give you some insight on how it should be changed or grown or evolved, and then that might unlock its application in another arena. So for me, like, I've actually tapped into, I just started designing hardware for the marine industry, but then a lot of people are taking my components and using them in the RV market or in the overlanding segment. And so it's this constantly evolving, constantly shifting landscape. And so you just need to be forward looking at and do your best to juggle all of the concerns.
JR had it in a presentation, fail fast. Fail fast doesn't mean failure. From these, the most important thing we take away are the learnings, right? So I've been on ventures where, I'm trying to productize a particular piece of technology, and after hundreds of product discovery calls, we learn that the customers are actually interested in another feature, right? That just stemmed from these conversations. So being able to follow that journey alongside, what Eric is saying, as you're preparing your business model, right? That goes inside of your pitch decks, right? You're thinking about, what's your vision of the company? What's your MVP? How are you going to test out your MVP? Stuff like that is all very important, and especially in the early stages, right, where you're managing your resources. I don't have a ton of money. I don't have a ton of time. What I do have are these conversations, and how can I leverage them? Where I do have these, these partnerships and these allies that I can build. What can I do? Well, how can I tell my story better? These are important considerations, especially in the early stage when you're taking on that journey. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else want to answer that? JR, you?
I'm okay.
Okay. No problem. No problem. And the next question that we have comes from Dean Schwartz from the SBDC. From beginning to end, what is a realistic time schedule from concept to development to production? Take us through a brief journey, beginning to end on a high level. Also mention the financing component and other unforeseen challenges. Thank you,
That
Dean.
is a
Good question.
very good loaded question. And you'll get different answers from every single person you talk to. For me, generally speaking, if you're a professional manufacturer already, the best ones I've seen out there can launch a product in about 12 to 15 months. Some of them can do it every 10 months if it's just a small change. For startups, typically we're talking a few years, 2 to 3 years. In just fundraising, let's say that you want to fundraise $2 million, unless you've already done it before. If this is your first round, you're talking 6 months to a year to fundraise several $1 million. The fastest I ever saw was a month for fundraising $3 million, but that was somebody who had sold his prior company for 500 million. So he already had a lot of friends to write him checks. So that's not your typical timeline. And I've seen some that take 2 to 3 years to fundraise the funds to get going. And so you have to get creative. Just development, which is my core expertise, typically we are ready to turn over to Trinell somewhere around the 15-month mark. If the capital is in place, we sometimes do it in 12 months, but typically around 15 to 24 months is when we turn over to say, hey, Trinell, we need and we usually reach out to Trinell like in month 10, or if not earlier, but it's turned over to the people that he represents around month 15. That's after capital has been fundraised.
Yeah, and I can't speak to that wide range of timeframes and different financial constraints or every product, it has a different window and time period for development. So some of my components, I'd say are still in development. I'm selling and I'm iterating and evolving with the landscape. Maintaining my product line to match the new antenna versions, and that's been a 3-year journey. And one aspect of my business, I'm trying to grow my product line. And so I've got another product here sitting on my desk that this is a simple component that I'm trying to leverage my manufacturing capacity and my market knowledge to bring something to the market that can help sustain the business. And it's a very limited, it's not a very capital intensive product to produce. And that's one of the reasons why I selected it. Another reason is that I have the capacity to build this into my product line. And so if you do have a manufacturing capacity and you do not require a large amount of funding, that time scale can be significantly shortened. So this is something that I've started developing since June, and my goal is to debut it next week. And so that is under the 6-month time frame. But again, that it requires a coalescing of manufacturing capability, market understanding, and low capital intensive product.
I'll just follow that up. Eric and Nicholas, I think they provided a really good context as to what it means to have a roadmap, and it's always changing. I'll leave you with a story. I was in charge of multimedia product planning for Toyota. It was back in 2011, 2012 when we were trying to launch the next generation of their navigation. You have the Apple CarPlay now. Back there was nothing, and what we were trying to do is align those multimedia products with the vehicle product launch, right? So a vehicle product launch is a 5-year planning cycle. So we had to have that information in ready. But say hello to Apple. Apple is not waiting around for 5 years, right? So the company itself, the industry itself had to change on how it fundamentally thinks about product planning, right? So that went to 3 years to 2 years. Now, let's think about cloud applications, right? So we don't have to think about these software and hardware integration, right? So, in your journey, your environment will evolve, competitors will come in, market dynamics will change. So, and on top of that, you will have, the product itself. When is your product relevant? When is the timing to launch? You have to take all of that into consideration, and not to mention as an early entrepreneur, as you're trying to align your sights into where should I go. So these are all going to come into your discussion and your planning, and it's always changing. So having those right partners, having those right connections, and just being relevant in the market space is very, very, very important.
All right, great answers. Great answer. Another question I have is, and I like how you were talking a little bit about like the partnerships as well. I know JR and I, we're both on the New Haven Equitable Entrepreneur Ecosystem council that he was talking about, where we're bridging the gap, for the early stage entrepreneurs, for that inventor that has that innovative idea that they want to produce. So I want to ask this question to all of you: how can regional ecosystems such as incubators, a chamber of commerce, right, or even universities better align to support inventors in that critical idea to industry gap?
To me, the easy answer is we need to enable more of these programs to allow hardware. Most programs today are afraid of physical products. Forge has changed that a little bit, and so has Climate Haven and MakeHaven. So we're slowly changing, but by and large, for every Inky program that supports hardware, there's probably 10 that do not. And so that's always been one of the first barriers. I mean, most of my founders always say it's just hard. For most of the investors I talk to are not interested as soon as I say hardware. In fact, we position many of our startups. We say, look, focus on your cloud offering, focus on your AI side, and leave hardware as an add-on. It's a lot easier to fundraise that way. And that's something that we need to change. When I first joined the industry in the early 2000s, it was all hardware. We were, it was the dot-com boom, and investors put all kinds of money into what went into driving the internet. But we kind of forgot about it because we didn't need it. For a while, it's been all software. So it's time to change again as we get into the new challenges we face with climate and with the clouds replace automation. Like all this AI is going to bring automation, and all that is going to require hardware. So it'll be interesting to see the next decade. But we need to get more support for it.
I will just add on to what Eric said. It's awareness. Programs like us exist. We are here to help. Forge is here to help entrepreneurs succeed in their hard tech journey. That's why we work very closely with Eric, Nicholas, hoping to work closely with you, and obviously, with JR and Kobe, and just making this information available to thriving, these hardworking entrepreneurs that exist in Connecticut. And how we can support them in connecting the dots. And I think Connecticut has done a great job, right? I mean, this is the only state with the chief manufacturing officer. We have Kirti Patel now. Before we had Paul Lavoie. I just think keeping this journey going. I think we're on the right track, and just helping these entrepreneurs at early stage and supporting them. That's where I'll leave it at.
Yeah, and what I'll say is it's building a community of people. So it becomes a lot easier when you have somebody that's done it I see a lot of people that it's establishing that it is possible, that there's a pathway, that other people have done it, and so I hope it's conversations like this and others that demystify it, at least tell you that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that there are other people who have the experience and can convey as you go through and find different roadblocks.
All right. So we have another question in the chat from Titus Logan, and they're asking, how do you get a company to buy or license your product after prototype?
That's a very loaded question. I mean, there's no, if you're lucky, I've been doing this since 2003, and I've only seen maybe 2 companies actually get their technology license. If you're looking for licensing, the easiest path will be the toy industry. That's one of the few areas where a lot of licensing happens. Uh, Most companies have to get to market, and you have to grow your product line to 2 or 3 products and have probably over at least 50,000 customers before they're gonna come talk to you to buy your stuff out. I'm sure I hear from every so often, it's like, but I know X or Y that did it. I haven't met them. Doesn't mean that it's not possible. It's just I personally, I most of the actual startups that approach me with licensing, I usually say, look, I don't think that that's an easy path unless you have something that is extremely rare. The only success story, and I'll share it, which that I know of was using blue LEDs or RGB, red, green, and blue, to create white light. The company actually licensed and patented that. A patent troll bought it, and they defended that patent until it expired. So, like we were doing, for example, a light for some pools, and they reached out to the startup, and we had to pay a fee because we were using red, green, and blue LEDs to make the pool light up at night. And it got to the point where they actually chip manufacturing, when you bought it out of DigiKey, they would pay the license fee whenever you use a chip that control red, green, and blue to make white light. So yeah, if you're lucky enough and a patent troll happens to pick you, that's the only example I know in my professional career that worked where you licensed it. Uh, but it's difficult. Not impossible, because I'm sure some people do it, but I can't help when I have not figured out how to do it myself.
All right, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else?
For it all.
Okay, no problem. Oh, where are you gonna go? I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I wasn't. I was just saying, like, I think Erick covered it pretty thoroughly. I just think, probably software licensing is a little bit easier than hard tech, when you talk about hardware. But, I'd say consult a lawyer when it comes to licensing. Erick, I listen to Erick through his experience. Yeah.
All right, good. All right, this probably be our last question, since we got about 3 minutes left in this webinar. But and it comes from Devin Thayer again. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Um, they're asking, what's the first thing you tell someone when they say, "I have an idea, I want to get started. What do I do first?"
I'll
Another
jump in
loaded
on
one.
this. Yeah. Well, I'm happy for others' opinion, but I would say the first thing you do is you figure out what is the fundamental part that you can build and test, and you build a mock-up in whatever. It doesn't matter if it's clay or cardboard, or if it even works, you can just mock it up. But do that, and then get some feedback from, first of all, try it yourself, and then get some feedback from some trusted, close friends, and people who know that industry, and who the end user, and it will probably open up your eyes, and you may end up in a very different place than what your first idea was.
Yeah, no, and I can speak to that a little bit. Is just get started. Start anywhere. Like it's going to be different, a different answer for someone that's building an electronic gadget to float your cell phone versus someone who's building a Starlink mount, you know. But I think the one thing is to tell a first-time entrepreneur or inventor is to get started, building something, and just get to it. Like just try it out, try and print it, try and manufacture it, try and carve it out of wood. But getting a physical representation of the thing you're trying to build can not only be inspiring for you to keep going, but also give you something to share with those that might be able to help you.
All of these advice relevant. I'll just add to that. Structure the venture, right? Structure the venture, what you're trying to accomplish. I think in a very fundamental step I would often take is, what is the hypothesis? What is my value proposition? I am building this to solve this for this people, a very well thought out hypothesis. Then, as JR said, go have these conversations, right? You can have these conversations. Do you have a problem in this area? Talk to the relevant demographics and try to suss out, like, what your idea is. Is it relevant or not, right? And then obviously what, JR and Nicholas said, diligently follow those, the structural advice, especially when it comes to hard tech manufacturing.
I'll say my top two pieces of advice that people appreciated over the years apply to this. One is have an exit plan. It is very addictive to be doing new tech. And I've met many people years later that are still trying, and it's like, I'll get it on the next one, and ruin their lives because they don't have, just have somebody, a buddy that you're going to check in with, a board, or somebody who knows that you can check in and make sure that you're meeting your goals and progressing, so it doesn't become a slippery slope. And two, Google and ChatGPT are your friends. We all think that this is new and nobody's done it, and you can learn from all the failures of others. I mean, there is so very few things that are new. In 30 years, I can maybe say if I've done 5 truly new things, that's too many. Most things have been done, and ChatGPT and Google can save you a lot of time and trouble and effort.
All right. Let's see. Yeah. Any before we close out, is there any last minute things, words of advice, gems, words of wisdom to those that are watching, on like what it takes to really be successful in this space?
A lot of grit. Keep going. Don't give up. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun for me. It's all about the adrenaline. It's kind of like every day the world's coming to an end, and you're one mistake away from failing.
Yeah. I think data, right? I mean, data, monitor data. You don't know until you try it. And after you try it, collect that data and see what that data tells you, right? Yeah. That would be my advice.
And I'd say just don't be afraid to pivot, change, or bring in new advice. Don't be so attached to something because of sunk cost isn't worth anything. It's only what you need moving forward.
I couldn't have said it better myself. No, I just want to say thank you all, Erick, Trinell, JR, Nicholas. Thank you all for sharing your expertise and your knowledge, and your wisdom. Just for folks out there who might have that idea and they just need that extra push. One thing that we always value and try to highlight at the chamber is our resource partners and the people that are on the ground doing the work to help innovators, entrepreneurs, and creatives that need to figure out what the resources are out there that can assist them in being successful. So I'm very grateful and appreciative for all of you all and what you're doing. I think this is a great way to celebrate Manufacturing Week. And if there's anything that I can do at my role at the chamber, I look forward to sitting down with any of you and finding ways that we can make this work more accessible and help those in need. So thank you all for your time. And I'm very grateful and appreciative for just learning from you.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Great seeing you guys.
Bye, guys.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. See you all soon. Thanks again.